Welcome to Spreadsheet Geek. In this video, we'll explore the benefits of diversification by simulating a market of investable securities that competing portfolio managers invest in. This video was made using Microsoft Excel 2019. Let's define our market first. For our market in this simulation, I've chosen the S&P Global 100 Index. This is an index of 100 large blue chip global companies. They're not all based in the US. Many are based in Western Europe and a few in Japan and some other nations. I've listed the S&P Global 100 list of companies in this worksheet. These are the current members of the index as of the end of 2020. And I looked up the beginning of the year and the end of the year price for each one of them and generated a total return. This total return does reflect the immediate reinvestment of dividends. So this is the list of companies and returns from which our fictitious portfolio managers will select. They will be competing against each other to try to best the index. Here's a chart that shows the dispersion of total returns of the index components. As you can see, it's a pretty balanced chart. Many of these companies delivered a negative return in calendar year 2020 because of the COVID crisis, but many returned positively. At the extreme left, we have British Petroleum, which was almost 40% down. And at the extreme right, we have, no surprise, Apple Computer up 83.7%. This is the market our securities managers will compete in, and 2020 is the period in which they will compete using real data. Now let's talk about our portfolio managers. This is our first group of portfolio managers. There's 5,000 of them, although you can't see them all in the picture. These portfolio managers believe that the best way to beat the index or beat the market is to select just 10 companies and invest equal weight in each of those 10 companies. We'll call this group the P10 group. This is our second group of portfolio managers. They believe it's better to invest in 30 of the 100 stocks in the market. There are also 5,000 of them in this group. Each of them will select 30 stocks out of the 100 and try to beat the market. We'll call this group the P30 group. This is our third group, also 5,000 strong. These 5,000 managers believe the best approach is to choose 60 of the 100 companies in the index and invest equal weight in each of those. We'll call this group the P60 group. This is our fourth and final group. It's really not a group, it's just one manager. This manager believes the best approach is to invest in all 100 companies in the index. This fund manager's job is very easy and it doesn't require the skill and expertise of the other groups. He simply equal weights each of the 100 index components. It's for this reason that he charges a much lower fee than all of the other portfolio managers. He only charges about $3 for every 10,000 invested each year, while the other portfolio managers average about $100 for every 10,000 invested. We'll call this group the P100 group. To run this simulation, I'm going to use my simulation add-in, which came separately for me. It's called Excel Sim 2009. There are many simulation or Monte Carlo simulation add-ins you can choose from. Most of them you have to pay for. So you will need that if you want to repeat this exercise. So how am I going to go about this? What I want to do is to generate random rankings of these 1 through 100 companies. So let's generate a random number over here, just simply using the rand function. And this generates a random number between 0 and 1. In this case, I've taken that random number out to 16 digits. Let's autofill that all the way down. You can see all of these are between 0 and 1. Now what I want to do in this column is rank each time we generate a new set of random numbers. I want to rank them from 1 to 100. So how do I do that? Let's use the rank function. The first argument is the number you want to rank, so that'll be this number here in G2. And the reference is the group of numbers you want to rank within. So that will be G2 through G101, accounting for the header row here. And you get to choose whether you want to rank these in ascending or descending order. It doesn't really matter which you pick as long as you stay consistent. I'm going to choose 1 for ascending. And before I hit the enter key, I'm going to fix these by hitting the F4 key. I want those references to remain the same when I autofill this formula all the way down. So I've just looking down the list here. Let's look at number 1. That's a pretty low number. That looks like it's working correctly. And here's a larger number toward the end, 98, and that's 0.98. So it looks like our ranking function is working correctly all the way down to the bottom. That's the first step, and what we're going to do now is simulate the generation of a 10 stock randomly selected portfolio. So I've done some pre-planning and scrolled down a little bit and created a block of cells in which I will choose at random 10 securities from this list and list their returns right here. So these are my 10 companies. These are just numbers in a cell, but I'm going to use this as a lookup value to look something up in this rank column, the number 1 ranked security. And I want to return both the symbol and the return over here in this column here. So unfortunately, my lookup value is to the right of my symbol and my return. So I'm going to use index match rather than VLOOKUP. I could rearrange this so that the rank is on the left, but let's just do an index match instead. I normally start with the match function. So what do we want to match? We want to match this. And where do we want to match it? What array? Well, it's the rank array, and that'll go from F2 to F101. And what type of match do we want? Well, we want an exact match, so that'll be this 0 function here. And let's go ahead and fix those values. Fix that array. So each time I hit the F9 key, I'm getting a new random number there. Now remember, this is only half of the index match function. Let's go ahead and nest this match function within an index function. And the first thing the index function wants is the array. So remember, we're looking up the symbol of our stock here, and that's over here in column B. So my array is going to be B2 through B101. And the next argument is the row number. And of course, we already looked that up. We want whatever row this 1 resides on. So that entire part of the argument is taken care of with this match function. And let's go ahead and fix these references so I can autofill this down and close this off. And you can see that number 1 is returning a symbol of EMR. Let's see if we can find that. EMR is number 1. So that's working correctly. Let's center that up. Now I want to do an index match for the return over here, so I can actually borrow this same formula. Let's copy that, paste it over here. And we have to change a couple things. Our index column is going to be the return, so that'll be column E. Let's change those B's to E's. We're still going to match the same row, but our lookup value over here in 1 shifted 1 column. So we need to change that from J back to I. And let's express this as a percentage with 1 decimal place. So now I can autofill these down. And I have just randomly selected a portfolio of 10 stocks with their returns here. I'm going to do an average. Since this is an equal weight portfolio, we'll just average these returns and show that average here. So this randomly selected portfolio would have yielded a return of negative 1.4%. And we can just reshuffle that as many times as we want to. I'm going to repeat this exact same process for the 30 stock portfolios and the 60 stock portfolios. So I repeated that same exact exercise for the 30 stock and the 60 stock portfolios. They go up a little higher. And you'll notice I've used the numbers 1 through 10 here. I'm using 11 through 40 here, and I'm using the remainder of 41 through 100 over here in the 60 stock portfolio. So every time I hit the F9 key, I'm reshuffling all the results, and I'm actually not using the same company in either one of these portfolios. I'm using up all 100 every time we select a new set of portfolios. And for the P100 manager, it's pretty simple. His return is always going to be the average of column E, since he's doing an equal weight 100 stock return. So that's simply the average of column E. Now we want to take fees into account, so I've added another row for the after fees return of these investment portfolios. For the P10, the P30, and the P60 managers, they charge 1% for their skill and expertise. So whatever return the fund generated before fees, I've just simply deducted 1%. And for the P100 manager, his fee is only 0.3%, so I've taken that percentage away accordingly. So the time has come to actually run our simulation. My simulation add-in resides over here on the Data tab. Let's open that up. This Monte Carlo simulation software requires you to fill out some information so it knows how to run the simulation. The first thing it asks for is the changing cells. Remember, these random portfolios and results are all driven ultimately by these random numbers. So those are my changing cells. I'm going to hold down the Control key and select all 100 of those random numbers. So those are my changing cells. My watch cells are the cells that contain values I want to show up on the report the Monte Carlo simulation software generates. So for me, there's really just 4. I want the after fees returns of these 4 investment portfolios. So again, I'm going to hold down the Control key and carefully click on each of those 4 cells. I've identified my watch cells. Now I get a chance to identify the watch names. This is just so that the simulation software can put headers on those columns with the appropriate names, and it's a good idea to enter these. I'm going to enter those, and I'm going to enter those in the exact same order I did the watch cells. Here we enter our number of iterations. Remember, we said we had 5,000 P10 managers and 5,000 P30 and 60 managers. So we're going to do 5,000 iterations. The sheet name, you just have to fill in something here. And this will take us over to a distribution. The distribution will, you can select some different options here, but it's critical here we select a uniform distribution. We want any number between 0 and 1 to have an equal chance of showing up. If we choose something different, I'm not sure what the effects of that would be, but let's go with uniform. Our lower limit is 0 and our upper limit is 1. Now, realize that in this part of the input here, the Monte Carlo simulation software isn't paying any attention to the random function that's in this cell. You're defining the random number generation here. And let's go ahead and hit OK. Oh, it's asking for each one of these. So we're going to have to click this 100 times. So I'm down to the end here, and as soon as I hit this one, it should start. And you can see the trials have started running. We're on number 35 of 5,000. So I'm going to check back when that's complete. My results page just came back, and I'm going to take a little time to go through these 5,000 solutions and the little section of statistical data down at the bottom. I'm going to clean this up a little bit and come back in a minute. So I cleaned up this report a little bit here. You have our trial runs over here, 1 through 5,000, and you have a percentage return over here expressed as a decimal. So this is 6.6% return on this P10 portfolio. And the statistical section down here, it basically reflects what you would expect. The P10 managers who have only 10 stocks in their portfolio, they have the lowest minimum and the highest maximum. So you've got the potential to get some of the highest returns from those guys, but also some of the lowest returns. The P30 managers tighten that range down a little bit, and the P60 managers tighten it down a whole lot. Of course, there's only one possible outcome for the P100 manager. He returned the index return. The mean, this reflects those fees more than anything, so take that into account. The median also. The mode is the most frequently observed observation. We evidently don't have any duplicate observations at all in any of these three. That's why that's NA, and of course there's only one here, so that's the mode. The standard deviation, 7.3% here, 3.7 and 2%. So again, you're seeing a smaller dispersion of results with the more stocks you add to your portfolio. Skewness is pretty mild here. Anything between 0.5 and negative 0.5 is mild skewness, and these are pretty low numbers. However, they are all positively skewed. A negative kurtosis indicates there's a little more observations in the center than at the wings. This one has more at the wings, but these numbers are all pretty mild, and this is excess kurtosis, not kurtosis. I'm going to graph these results up here, all 5,000 of them, on a scatter plot. This is what the P10 dispersion of results looks like on a chart, scatter plot. You can see that there's some outliers up in the 30% range, but not very many, and there's quite a few down here in the 15-20% down range. But that's a pretty wide dispersion of results. I'm going to put the P30 managers on top of these. Now I've added the P30 managers results. There's a smaller dispersion of results with the P30 managers. Next, I'm going to put the P60 managers on top. There's the P60 managers added in gray, and you can see the dispersion is even tighter. Now I've added the P100 managers result, which is of course a straight line right across because he returns the return of the market before fees. Now, fees are important here. This is giving the P100 manager a little bit of an edge because you can see his line isn't quite in the center of the scatter plots of the other types of managers. You can see from this little demonstration that diversification greatly reduces the potential range of outcomes of your investment portfolio. It reduces the adverse impact of any individual stock that did very poorly, which is what these guys down here are suffering from. Of course, you're eliminating the chance of picking several winners in a small portfolio and doing extremely well. Nobody knows what the stock market will return next year, but it's possible this yellow line for the market's return could be down at -20, -40%. Imagine how you'd feel on top of that negative return if you invested in one of these P10 portfolios and you were down a number of percentage points on top of that. You'd be experiencing a very volatile and painful ride. There's one more thing I'll point out before I close out this video. The number of managers who exhibit extremely strong skill and expertise in investing and are able to ride above the herd up in this upper range is very small. In fact, there may be no such thing as investor skill, because a lot of these fund managers who have a good run one year end up down here at the bottom end the next year. It's the nature of the beast. And if you want a good video on that topic, I'll link one in the description from Ben Felix. I hope you've gotten something out of this discussion of diversification in your investment portfolio. And I hope you consider becoming a subscriber of mine. Subscribers are what I need most. But if not, please give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment and an idea for a future video. Thank you for visiting Spreadsheet Geek.